So I wanted to share with you what I found at the thrift store and how it is changing and shaping my design plans for this room. Hello friends, and welcome back to my channel. And in this case, my caravan here in the middle of stunning Norway, where I am currently in the middle of rehearsals. I mean, not by the time actually that you're watching this, but me currently, that is what's happening. If you're new to this channel, you might be a bit confused. So first of all, welcome. I'm Shannon Makes, aspiring interior designer by day, circus artist by night, and last summer I purchased this gorgeous and completely dilapidated 120-year-old Victorian duplex in Nova Scotia, and I am slowly restoring and renovating it here on the channel. And next week, actually, we are going to be watching me make over the very first room in the house, the bedroom. But I wanted, first of all, to take this week to kind of dive into my design plans for the room, because, you know, for me, at least, this is always the most fun part of any sort of home renovation project. I love the aesthetic, decorative stuff, and I have so many fun ideas for this room. But I also had a lot of limitations in terms of what I was realistically able to achieve in my time frame, in my budget, all of that. So I thought this week we would take a look at those plans, talk about all the various limitations, and also just get really revved up and inspired for the design of this new room. Also, the sun here is going in and out and the exposure might be a little bit wonky, so I apologize. I am doing my best. So originally going into this, literally the only thing I had in terms of aesthetic was that tub of green paint. So I was thinking, okay, maybe white paint, green paint, we can go with some wood furniture and go in like a botanical themed Scandinavian design inspired sort of situation. Maybe I can find a dresser to paint and do with the mushrooms, very similar to the one that I had in my bedroom in Copenhagen for so many years. I love that dresser. I love that bedroom. I thought, okay, maybe let's go that direction once more. Now, I am by no means a proper interior designer at all, but I do really enjoy learning about it, listening to people talk about it, and I do love designing and redoing rooms. I've done this so many times in the past with, to be quite honest, varying levels of success. So I'm by no means an expert, but rather than telling you how you should do it, because who am I? I am not qualified. I'm just going to tell you instead how I personally like to do it, how I like to approach it, and maybe some of that will resonate with you. So for me, the first step to redoing any room, once it's, you know, structurally sound and I've figured out what its main function is going to be, in this case, it's pretty easy. It's a bedroom. I then, you know, have to decide what I'd like it to look like, what the aesthetics of the room are going to be. And I feel like this starts off really fun, but then a lot of people can get overwhelmed at this point, possibly because, you know, like me, they've started out browsing Pinterest and collecting inspiration there. You find all these stunning images of, you know, somebody's dream kitchen or this lavish bedroom. And then slowly, quickly, actually, you can get overwhelmed. What is the unifying look? Things get a bit chaotic. And you know what? I totally understand that. I have definitely been there. I've got some killer images saved from my own Pinterest browsing. But I do think a lot of people can kind of freeze up when it comes to the next step of taking this inspiration and then actually applying it to their own spaces, making some actual decisions about what to do in their house, their room specifically. And luckily, I will say this isn't something I've had trouble with too much, and I do think that's due to a couple things. First of all, I am not generally super precious about these design decisions. I'm generally kind of like, you know, I like this sounds good, let's try it. And if it works, amazing. And if not, well, that's fine. I can try again because I love the process as much as the destination. So that does really help. But also, I do kind of have what is maybe a strange point of departure for my designs, because I always like to start with something I already own and love, and then I tend to base the entire makeover around that one object. Like, I will literally design an entire room around a single object, which I know it can sound silly, but it can literally be something as simple as a blanket. For example, the next time that my Montreal apartment needs a refresh in the living room, I will 100% be basing it around this orange and blue blanket that I thrifted and absolutely love. That purple wall in my studio that you all know and love and everybody comments on, well, that purple was drawn directly from an IKEA bedspread that I loved, and that purple wall in that exact shade has followed me through to I think 3 different bedrooms in different apartments, so it's become a running theme. It's a color I love, and it all came from that one bed sheet. On the one hand, it sounds so silly, but on the other hand, it's actually kind of smart. You know, you already own the thing, you know you love it, and I think most importantly, it gives you a tangible starting point to start making these design decisions around. Like once I had that blanket, I then found some gorgeous fabric with the same colors that would make super cute curtains. So then I was able to confidently purchase a lot of that. Like it just gave me that tangible jumping off point to start planning the rest of the design of the room. And of course, here I'm mostly talking about color, but you can also use it to inform some other design decisions as well. And I will get into that in a second when we look more at the design of the bedroom makeover, which for this, I kind of had free reign. As many of you know, when we drove down to the house, I just crammed the car with all of the tools we owned and a small suitcase of clothing, but we didn't really bring any other like normal worldly possessions with us, no linens, nothing that I already owned and loved that could act as an anchor for this makeover. Fortunately, I'm not too picky. I kind of figure that doing anything to this room will be an improvement, and we will go over the current state of the room in great detail next week, I promise. But here are some quick images of what it currently looks like, just so we're all on the same page. I kind of accidentally stumbled onto the very first element of this room makeover, and that is this green paint. I've been testing out some paint colors. So the large green comes from a mist tint that I got from a huge reduction at the hardware store. So instead of being $60 or $70 for a gallon, I got it for $20 because it was a mist tint from somebody else's project, and I saw the little sample paint swatch on the lid and thought, hey, that could be a pretty cute color. So came home and threw it up on the walls because it's always a good idea to try out the paint on the actual wall in the room just to see how it looks with the lighting in here. So immediately after I found that paint, and especially after I saw it up on the wall, I started to think, okay, like maybe I should be going with a Scandinavian inspired design for the bedroom, which if you follow interior design at all, you're probably rolling your eyes like thinking, oh, that's so overdone, which pretty sure it had its peak like 5 to 8 years ago. So on the one sense, that's true. But on the other hand, I've never really followed trends in any part of my life, so that I don't really give a hoot. Also, it is kind of personal for me because I spent 3 years living in Denmark. I had the good fortune to be able to choose or design a lot of the elements of my bedroom there, and that made it pretty much the coziest place ever. I absolutely adored it, and I would love to replicate it for this bedroom makeover. So let's take a look at some of the quintessential elements of Scandinavian style and start to create a plan for how to apply it to this bedroom. What are some of the unique features I'd like to bring in? And how are we going to do that in classic Shannon Makes style? And to help us with that task, we're going to use Milanote, who is kindly sponsoring this portion of today's video. Milanote is a free organizational tool that can help you plan just about anything from interior design to sewing projects. Now, renovating this house is a gargantuan task, and I feel like anything like of this scale really invites so many ideas. I mean, each room is basically a blank canvas for me to decorate and design, so it's been really helpful to have a place to dump all of the ideas, all the thoughts, inspiration, everything I've got floating around in my head, so that I can keep my brain focused on the task at hand without worrying that, I'll forget that stunning powder room that caught my eye on Pinterest, or the article on how to make your own plaster molding. Hint, hint for the future. So first, let's look at the overarching reno plan for this bedroom, which you can see I've titled my Castle Core bedroom because that's very much what this bedroom was originally decorated as. I've got my main problems with the room and some to-dos for how to fix them. Then in the middle column here, I've outlined the basic goals of the renovation, what's driving the remodel, and some basic thoughts on how I'd like to revamp it. And then I also have some more actionable and tangible goals here that'll just help to make sure all of the work I do on the room is in service of those goals. Plus, you know, I'm also using this to kind of organize the resources that I already have at hand versus what I still need to finish the room. Then finally, the fun part, the nitty-gritties of the design for the room. This is my favorite part for sure. So let's jump in, take a look at the board I created for my bedroom makeover journey. I am calling it Scandinavian Botanicals because, as you'll see in a second, I lean quite heavily into the foliage aspect of the Scandinavian design style. So let's start by pulling in some inspirational images, and I'll just use a simple Google search for Scandinavian style. Okay, I think that's going to give us a good idea of the overall aesthetic that we're going for here. So I really like this image, and I'm just going to use the Milanote web clipper to directly pull it into my mood board. And I really like this one because it's got all of the quintessential elements of Scandinavian style, which, you know, it's a lot of whites and warm neutrals. We've also got those warm wood tones, and also like a lot of natural materials are key to this design style. We can see that in the jute runner here, the jute basket, the woven lamp. So we've got a variety of warm browns and different natural textures. And then, of course, the most natural of all materials, some plant life, which I really lean into that element because I feel like without it, it can really start to feel just very beige 90s soccer mom. So we really want to keep it like clean white and bright green with some sparing warm brown accents, a little bit of beige, but with care and caution. Also, judging by the amount of natural light in both of these images, it is an unusually sunny day in Copenhagen. So if that is our guiding image, let's take a look at how I applied some of those elements to my room in Denmark, because there are a couple key factors I really want to reproduce in the Nova Scotia bedroom. And I've got so many images going on here. I'm just going to turn them into a separate board, which we can then easily nest this board inside the main bedroom board. We're going to call it Copenhagen Room. Perfect. And you can see Milanote's got all these different templates you can choose from. Like if you want to start with a bit of structure already baked in, they've got tons of options, but I think I'm just going to start with an empty board. And then because these are my own photographs, I'm actually just going to pull them directly from my computer here. Okay, so here is the mushroom dresser that I designed, and you can see the progression in the images here from the plain pine dresser that I found. It was just floating around the basement of that apartment, to the plain white version, to the final iteration with the ferns and the cute little vintage mushroom images in those golden frames, which I absolutely love the way this piece turned out. I get comments on this all the time in my older videos where you can see it in the background. It was a really nice backdrop, and I've been itching to make a second version of it on the North American side of the ocean, so that is absolutely gonna go onto the board here. Then other key elements from the Copenhagen bedroom, we've got lots of white furniture, we've got clean geometric shapes in mostly neutral colors, although of course I did bring in my purple sheets because purple in the bedroom, it's just kind of like a running theme with me. Always got to have some purple. There's a lot of plant life. We've got some twinkle lights and candles, both for aesthetics and the quintessential Danish hygge. Just got to get those cozy vibes. So if we take it back out to the bedroom makeover board, I mainly want to pull in the dresser here because that's the element that I want to try and copy. Although I do know I will probably have to adjust the design to fit the dresser that I currently have available to me. And then I know that IKEA sells some botanical themed linens that would be absolutely perfect for this bedroom. My friend actually has them on her bed. They're mainly white, but with little leaves and flowers. So Just gonna search the website here. No, not this one. Yes, okay. So now I found it. I can just click the little Milanote image in the corner here and it'll ask me which board I want to save it to. Obviously, Scandinavian Botanicals. And then we can see that when I go back to Milanote again, it has sent the image over here. It just kind of sets it in my unsorted section on the right-hand side so that I can choose when and where I want to put it on the board. And I cannot emphasize how much I enjoy this feature. It is so simple and yet so effective and just really helpful for keeping everything organized. So let's just take this and drop it over here. And then I think I'm going to use the crop tool to get rid of some of that white. Okay, perfect. Now, am I being overly fussy? Maybe, but you know, I like designing things, whether it's a bedroom or a mood board. What can I say? And if this looks like fun to you too, be sure to give Milanote a try for yourself. It is available for free with no time limit, and you can sign up using the link in the description. Okay, so now when I click on the hyperlink in the corner of this photo, it takes me right to the IKEA page where I got it from. So if I want to keep track of resources or eventually I want to order that exact duvet cover online instead of having to drive into Halifax to visit IKEA in person, I can really easily do that. But actually, one thing that I really want to pull out is I really love this little touch of pink here in the bedspread, and I think it would be lovely to pull it out and maybe use it as an accent in the rest of the room. So I'm gonna grab a color swatch and drag it onto the board, and then I can select that exact color here with the eyedropper tool, and Milanote will not only find the color, but it will also give it a name, which is so random and kind of fun. Let's grab a pothos. Also can't forget the ferns. And voila. So here, this is kind of what I had in mind for the bedroom makeover. And I don't know, what do you think? I low-key love this visual mood board display. It is so inspiring to get all my thoughts and ideas just like organized and thrown in one place. It really gets me fired up to get going on this renovation. So if you feel like you enjoy this sort of laying out and visual mood boarding, if you think it would be helpful to you on any of your creative endeavors, just sort of getting all of those artistic ideas out of your head and firmly in front of you, be sure to give Milanote a try. Again, it is available for free and you can sign up using the link in the description. So that was the original plan and I was super psyched about it, but a couple things happened to kind of U-turn that plan around, totally different direction. Mostly it was the reality of having a tiny budget, a very tight time frame, and living in a tiny town with a sparsely populated province. So the entire bedroom ended up following basically an entirely different set of aesthetics, although I was chuffed to say it was still very Scandinavian inspired. I couldn't shake that Scandinavian influence, it just took a bit of a different direction. But before we get into the design U-turn that I took, I have got to show you the Scandinavian view from outside my caravan because it is absolutely stunning. Those are some stunning vistas. Plus then if we go for just a tiny little jaunt over this way, maybe only 45 seconds. You can see Canal knows the way very clearly. We're gonna end up at our favorite spot of the contract. Oh, and all of these little bushes here, wild blueberries, which you can absolutely bet that I've been harvesting. I'm about to make a blueberry apple crumble for the whole cast tomorrow, in fact. Just a little bit further, take a look at that. This stunning little vista is where we go throw the stick for Canal every morning. So spoiled. Just thought I wanted to share that with you because don't know if it's going to make it into an upcoming video or not. If it does, it's probably going to be a crafting video. I know not all of you watch those, so just wanted to share this amazing little slice of Norway with everyone. But probably time to go back to the caravan and discuss more about the design of this room, shall we? All right, let's get back into the design. So I had this whole plan all worked up in my mind, but then a couple of things happened. First of all, I didn't find the bed sheets that I wanted. Go in like a botanical themed Scandinavian design inspired sort of situation. Unfortunately, I didn't find anything at all like that in terms of bedding when I went to the thrift store. I do know that IKEA does make one duvet cover that would be absolutely perfect for this theme, but alas, I could not find it. Now, I could have sworn that every time I've ever gone into a thrift store in the last 5 years, I've come across those bed sheets. They're everywhere. But then, of course, the instant that I'm actually actively looking for them, nothing. I searched every thrift store I could find in a fairly large radius around my house, which honestly wasn't that many stores because Nova Scotia isn't that populated. But again, that's kind of my point, just like working with what we got, limited resources, that whole thing. So my last hope was our trip to Halifax that you saw a couple months ago. And while we were there, we hit 3 different thrift stores, ideally hoping to find that exact IKEA bedsheet. But honestly, I was pretty flexible. I decided just even something vaguely along those lines, whites, greens, botanicals, that kind of thing. And I did not manage to find that, but I did find this. No, not that. This. Now, it's not my usual style, I fully admit that, and I did actually pass it up at first a couple different times, but I found that I just kept coming back to it. Like, something really was drawing me to this duvet cover, which I decided was a sign that I shouldn't ignore, and you can see in the clips from us coming home that evening that I did decide to purchase it. I loved the bright colors and the somewhat whimsical folk art style of the art on it, so that became my one centerpiece, my anchor around which I based all my design decisions. And in the end, that turned out to be a really smart move because the wide variety of colors in the duvet did give me a lot more freedom to thrift things that went with it, which honestly I would love to claim was a conscious decision of mine at the time, but it wasn't, although it is, in retrospect, a very clever way to approach interior design when you're on a budget or if you are working mostly with thrifted items. Like, having a color scheme that's a bit broader increases the likelihood you'll be able to find things to match it. Unless, of course, one of the main colors turns out to be an odd, dusty gray blue, which, you know, as we'll see, turned out to be a bit of a bear to match, but I ended up making it work and I continued to thrift a bunch of other things to go with it. So let's quickly take a look at everything that I found. So I wanted to share with you what I found at the thrift store and how it is changing and shaping my design plans for this room. What I did find was another IKEA duvet cover, which is this super cute little thing right here. I don't remember the name of it, so I'll throw that up on screen, but I absolutely love the colors. The rich, warm colors really spoke to me, plus like the fun, whimsical design. Plus, I kind of like the fact that there are so many colors in here that you can kind of draw out in design accents around the room. And fingers crossed, I'm hoping that that green paint matches some of the green on this duvet cover. I have not checked yet, but we can go up and do that shortly. That would be absolutely amazing. So this was like the main thing that then sort of shaped the rest of my search at the thrift store, trying to find other linens and draperies that sort of matched this or complemented it. And I will say that this blue is a very hard blue to match. It's like a sort of dusty gray blue, which proved a little bit challenging, but I think I did a pretty good job. So with this in hand, the next thing that I found was several curtains that are a very good length and a very similar color, similar shade of blue, and they are in this kind of fun suede-y velvet type texture, which I would hate if it was on a piece of clothing, but because this is going to be hanging on the wall, I think it's just gonna add some fun texture. So I got a bunch of those, I think 4 altogether. They were very inexpensive, and I figured worst case, I'll find something creative to do with the other 2, or I'll use them in another window in this house. There are so many windows in this house. Then I also grabbed this table runner, which is much more similar to that dusty blue-gray color. And I figured if I need to like lay this across the top of a dresser or something, this could come in handy, and it was only $1 or $2. Then I grabbed a couple pillows, which again, complementing, drawing out those colors that are over in the duvet cover. So this fun pattern and texture in the mustard gold, and then another velvet option in the orange, and they match very nicely the mustard and the orange that are going on in my duvet cover. So very happy about that. Then last up on the list was super random, this miscellaneous packet of napkins that are in like very autumnal colors, but they happen to match very, very nicely the same colors, and once again from the duvet. So that was kind of serendipitous, and for a couple bucks I grabbed it. Who knows if I'll use it. And last up on the list, much less aesthetic but very practical, a couple pillows. Because at the moment I got only one pillow on my bed, one real one, and the other one is a blanket folded up several times and jammed into a pillowcase. So all in all, a very successful trip to the thrift store, even though it was not even remotely the direction I was originally intending to be going. But you know what, that's part of the fun and definitely one of the challenges of using the thrift store as your main source of anything, is you never know what you're going to find, and you can never count on finding exactly what you have in your mind. So you get really good at coming up with plan B real fast. So we've got the thrifted duvet cover, we've got some fun pillows and curtains to match, we've got the paint color for the wall. So what else do we need, want, covet in this bedroom? Well, as we saw earlier, I was still missing a bed frame, some side tables. Originally, I was missing lighting options, although as we saw, I did end up thrifting some of those. And then just the sort of knick-knacky decorative elements. Now, I did have the dresser, you saw that in a previous video, and in fact I had a couple options. I had the simpler one for Marketplace, or the fancier one that came with the house, and while I do really love the lines of the fancy one, it just needed way too much work. And this is where we're gonna hit up again against another one of the limitations, which was the time frame, the deadline. Now, I know a lot of people get confused about the timeline on these videos, so at this point I had maybe 2 or 3 days left at the house before we were gonna leave. Well, Phil had already gone, before I was gonna leave, and I needed the room to be done, or just done enough so that I could film the video, have some reveal shots for y'all, and also just have a clean room that I could come back to. Like, that was really the main concern. My goal was that the next time we came back to the house, we'd have a finished bedroom, just like one teeny tiny clean sanctuary in the middle of all the chaos and dirt that is this house. It didn't need to be perfect, it just had to be an improvement. So, no fancy dresser, that was still too musty, needed way too much work, so I went instead with the simpler one from Marketplace, which originally I got because it was already painted. I figured that way I could feel free to repaint it without the guilt of, you know, painting over nice wood furniture. Except that the original mushroom dresser design plan kind of went out the window once I found that new duvet cover. Now, don't worry, I love that design and I probably still will do it at some point, maybe for the house or maybe just to make a video about it and sell it on Marketplace. That just didn't go with the new vision for the bedroom, which I'll call vaguely Scandinavian folk art, which then got me thinking that it would be a perfect opportunity to try some rose malling. Even if you don't know the name, because trust me, I had to look it up for this video, you'll probably recognize the style. It's this very ornate decorative painting that developed in Norway, I think around the 1700s. I should probably look into it since I'm here. I could just ask around. That became the game plan for the dresser. So those are all the items that I specifically acquired for the bedroom, and the rest were just sourced locally, meaning basically that I raided the rest of my house for it. And fortunately, there was so much stuff in the house that I had a pretty decent selection to choose from. And I'm not going to get too much into it because I do want to save some fun for next week, but highlights include this metal coffee maker thing that I found in one of the living rooms, this little cutie that somebody was giving away on the side of the road, and then I rounded out the decoration of the room with some antiques for the attic, kind of just created this little vignette moment thing on top of the dresser that was super fun. So with that background in mind, the full bedroom makeover video will be coming out next week. A lot more action, a lot less talking, and I cannot wait for it because it is so much fun. In the meantime, let me know how you enjoyed the 2 different styles that I proposed. Do you prefer plan A with the green and white botanical style, or plan B with like the blues and the bright pops of color, the sort of whimsical folk art style? Or if, like me, you would be happy with either as long as it's clean and cheerful and makes for a fun video. Let me know if you think I should add some, internal temperature too high. Well, I guess that's a sign we're done. Seriously though, look at how big these are. Are they even showing up on camera? There we go. That's a bit better. They're as big as my face. So I think it's gonna be fine. Yeah, trials and tribulations of being a homeowner.